morning, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. Today is our April morning TNC, and I'm just going to kind of go over what I've been doing with for the month of April, the decks that I've been working with, different stuff like that. And we're just going to sit down and look at some pretty cool decks. So my practice has been pretty routine and just working with the same decks. I haven't had the desire or the need to work with anything else. I'm still working extremely heavily with a particular group of decks. We'll get to those and I'll show those in a second. I just feel that since they've shown up, that need or that desire to buy other decks or purchase new decks just hasn't been present. I feel a lot of the time, like I know myself personally, I tend to buy a lot of decks when I'm feeling the need of connection or I feel like I have a lack of connection. So to me, I feel like I go on these like spurges of buying all these decks in search of that connection to the divine, to Mother Earth, Gaia energy, whatever you want to say, until I feel like that's fulfilled, right? And I'll just keep buying decks and buying decks and buying decks and buying decks until that's somehow satisfied. The funny thing about it is it starts to become this routine where you're just purchasing. And it gets to be an extremely expensive habit and kind of destructive in a way because it really honestly doesn't allow you to connect in deep to these decks and to reap all of the benefits that it has to offer because you're just moving from like one deck to the next and to the next deck. And I mean, you have one show up, like I would have one show up like once a week or once every 2 weeks, even if it was once a month. I feel that 3, 4 weeks of working with the deck, most of the time to me feels like you're only scratching the surface of what these decks can offer and they can bring forward. Maybe my life is a little bit more of a slow moving life, which I'm quite content with. I live purposely. I have a very intentionally slow paced life, and I try my best to keep it that way. That works for me. That might not work for others. I do not have children. I don't have that same busy schedule that a lot of people do. So I'm able to just slow my roll and keep my life coming, for the most part, at a very nice pace. So therefore, maybe 3, 4 weeks with a deck isn't that much to me or doesn't feel like that much to me because I'm just not dealing with that much stuff that's coming through, right? Like I said, my life is a little bit more of a slower paced life, which, might be what's going on right there. I've been working with these decks now a little over a month, some of them, and I feel like I'm just starting to get to know them. And I'm really trying to slow things down, especially my purchases in decks, and have that reflect the energy of my life. And like I said, I purposely try to embrace slow living, right? So purchasing decks and having decks coming in and out in that busyness, left, right, and center, just doesn't work. So I've been trying to just really, really pick and choose decks wisely, research the heck out of them before I buy them, and then just kind of work with what I have right now because I have a pretty fantastic collection and I want to spend time with these decks and get to know them. So, with that being said, I'll go to the deck that I've been working with now for. I was trying to figure it out before I started this video. I think I've been using it consistently now for at least at least 4 months, if not longer. It's been in my collection for a while. I've gone through like periods in time where I I just wasn't drawn to it, right? But then all of a sudden I just had this need for it and this like craving for it, and it kind of filled this void that I was experiencing. And the best way I can explain it is, like, I live in the middle of nowhere. I live deep into a farming community that truly hates nature and just bulldozes trees and sprays Roundup all over everything. And it's such an unhealthy atmosphere to live in. And I actually battle with it daily. It's starting to kind of affect my health. It's not pleasant where I live, unfortunately. I live in an amazing building and I have an amazing property, but what's around me is not desirable. So I have this really deep, deep yearning to connect into Gaia energy. And it's just my yard is not developed enough. Like I said, if you've watched my stuff from the beginning, you know that we've only been here. We're going on our 5th year. Like, we're turning our 5th year starts in the end of June. So we're just coming up on that. And it's very young. It's all very young plants. It's all very new landscape. And it just doesn't satisfy that being out in nature, needing to connect in deep feeling, right? So this deck has come forward for me, and it's kind of given me that need that I have, right? It's kind of itched that scratch. So this is the Devas of creation. In Sanskrit, the word is Devas, not Devas. So it depends on whatever you want to call it. Neither is wrong. I go back and forth between the two, but I tend to call it Devas, the Sanskrit name. It just seems to sit better with me. I'm sure you guys have seen this deck a million times, but this deck is absolutely profound. It has really, really, really brought a lot forward for me. It has this ability to just connect you into the spirit of the earth and the energies that exist, the Dewas, right? That exist. And it's amazing. I never I've never met a deck that's able to kind of transport you the way that this one does. At least for me, anyways. And all I'm doing is I sit down with it once a day. I pull one card. Sometimes a couple fall out. I won't use more, like if 3 or 4 jump out, I won't use them. I'll put them back in and shuffle them. But if like 2 jump out and I'm feeling it, I'll keep them. But otherwise, I'm just looking for one card. And it just gives you a little bit of advice for that day, maybe a little bit of something you should be paying attention to, maybe, something that needs to be looked at or avoided, or just spend time contemplating, right? And like the artwork is just, I get lost in it. It's so beautiful. I'm really enjoying my time with this deck, and I do not see this deck going anywhere anytime soon. I'm pretty sure it's just going to stay out, sitting on my shelf, and I'm just going to do my daily pull with it. I don't know, for as long as I can foresee at this point. I have no desires or urges to put this deck away, and I doubt that I will. I really honestly don't think I will. And it's just so magical. And like, yeah, I still have to get into the book. I mean, you're gonna have to. When you're doing those kind of polls, you want to get into the book. You want to hear what they have to say. I've been working with this a long time, and some of them I'm like, "Oh, okay, I know what this one is," or, "Oh, I know what that one means," because they've come up quite a few times for me. But in all reality, the majority of these cards I still have to look at the book for, and it's a quiet moment. It's before my day begins. I sit down, I shuffle it, look out my window, stare at the trees and the leaves blowing around, and just connect into that energy and pull a card and see what it has to say. So this is my card today. It is card number 1. It's called The First Light. And I've been getting a lot of the lower numbered, like the ones, the 3s, the 5s, like the lower numbered cards lately, which are always pointing to something beginning or something growing or something starting, from the gist of it, right? Obviously, there's a lot more to it. But so that's kind of been where my practice has been leading me for a couple months now. And then I take this card and I sit it up on my altar. I have a little stand. It's actually not my altar. It's like, well, it's like my second altar, I guess you would say. But it's a piece of furniture that's kind of centrally located in my house. And I put it up in my stand so I can look at it throughout the day. And I'm reminded of what this card is about. And I spend times, like when I walk by it, I'll look at it and it'll kind of bring me back into that energy, and it'll just kind of help me center and remember what I'm supposed to be looking for, connecting to throughout my day, right? So that's kind of what I've been doing, and it's working really well, and I absolutely love it. So that's The Day Was of Creation by Scylla Conway. Fantastic deck. I am drawn to Scylla's work. I haven't gotten any of her other decks yet. There are a couple on my list that I haven't gotten the opportunity to get yet, but I will be eventually. It's just right now I'm so satisfied with The Day Was of Creation that I haven't felt the need or desire to really get anything else at this time. But I do plan on adding more of her stuff to my collection because I do really like her artwork and just the way that she writes her books and what comes forward with her cards and the information. So if you guys follow me and you've watched my previous videos, you'll know that I had an Usi haul. I'm still working with all of those decks regularly every night. I'm trying to get to know them. I'm trying to connect in with them. Pagan Otherworlds and the other two oracles, as well as the Eros. I've just been I've been spending a lot of time with, and this is what I've been working on. I'm really, really liking the energy and the connection that these cards are bringing in. I find them beautiful and just it's like an RW, but not at the same time. I have the books that go with them as well too, and I've just been kind of sitting and looking at each card and reading what they have wrote about these cards and what their meanings are, and why they, like this picture, for example, why there's a frog sitting and looking into the pond, right? And just stuff like that. And I'm just finding them so beautiful. And this deck, these decks, when they showed up, they fulfilled something or satisfied something inside of me that has made me, I'm no longer interested in purchasing new decks. I kind of feel like majority of the decks I'm looking at don't don't have the same standards and quality that these decks have. They're not, I'm not interested in them. These ones are so beautiful and are the exact depiction of tarot and what you should be looking for in a tarot, right? I feel like they just, at least for me, just fulfill that longing or that void of connection that I was feeling, that sent me on this crazy purchasing path, whatever, like I don't even know. So I feel very satisfied with these decks. I feel good about these decks, very connected to them, and they're just astounding. They are mature, they are active, they are reactive. They just have so much to say, and I'm loving them. Really, honestly, truly, I am. I get lost in the artwork. They're bold, but yet soft at the same time. I could just go on for like ages about these Usi decks. They are outstanding. The card stock is phenomenal. I mean, yeah. And they're just, it's fantastic, right? So these have definitely been holding very firm in my practice. This one, the Pagan Other Worlds, is on my nightstand. It bumped the Ritual Tarot out. This has been sitting in its spot. I consort this deck and use it every night and just see what it has to say, what's coming forward, what my next day is going to be like, maybe things that I need to avoid, maybe a little bit of clarity on situations that have happened the day before or the day of, throughout that day. And it's been great. I really honestly, I've loved it. I have nothing but good things to say about this deck. It is a little bit of an advanced read, but I don't know. At the same time, I feel like if you really wanted to read it, you would have no problems reading it. I removed the lunar phase cards because I just really wanted to get to know this deck. And then once I really get to know this deck, I'll probably bring in those lunar phase cards and just kind of get to know those two at the same time. But I really just wanted to concentrate on learning this deck like as it is as a tarot without those extra cards other than the seeker card. I did leave the seeker card in because I feel like the seeker card is an amazing addition, right? So the other deck that I've been working with by Usi. So you're going to see a bunch of Usis. This is probably just going to be really repetitive because it is, but this is what I'm working with. This is what I've been spending my time doing. This is what my April has been, is just these decks, other than the decks that I'm working with for the deck and walk, right? I'm using Moonology, the Stars Divine, the Hermetic Tarot by the Golden Dawn, and uh, the Borderless RW Centennial, which, I mean, everybody knows those decks. Everyone's seen them a million times, right? But those are the other decks that I've been working really with, right? But that's just for the deck and stuff. I've isolated them and put them off on their own, and they are not with my everyday practice cards or my reading for client cards now. They've been separated. And yeah. But this deck, the Materia Prima, I believe is how you pronounce it. This deck, when it showed up, I was kind of like, what the heck am I going to do with this thing? So obviously, this is one of those decks where you're kind of bound to the book, right? I mean, some people maybe don't need to be, but I do. And I'm learning this deck. I'm connecting in with this deck. And this deck is really quite amazing. It's very elemental, it's very alchemical. It connects you to the minerals and, sorry, not minerals, metals. Well, maybe there were some minerals, metals and gases and all this different stuff. And the funny thing is, when this deck arrived, it reignited my passion for pottery. And I used to do a little bit of pottery back in the day, and I stopped for very many, many, many years. And when this showed up, it kind of reignited that desire to sit down and work with the earth again and to put my hands into clay. And the most wonderful thing about pottery is it's literally, you're working with every single element, right? You're working with air for drying, whether you want it to dry or you don't want it to dry. Water is a huge factor in making pottery. Fire is how you biscuit and how you dry it and how you create it. And then earth is the substance that you're wielding and you're forming and manipulating into these amazing shapes, right? So it's very grounding and very, I love it. I love it. So it's brought back that spark for me. And the funny thing is a lot of the components and the metals that you see throughout this deck are parts of glazes or minerals in or metals found in clay, right? So mostly glazes though. It just kind of gives you this really different approach at connecting into the earth energy, a completely different side of earth energy that I think gets really overlooked, right? Like we concentrate on the trees and the birds and the butterflies and flowers and the botanicals and the floras and the faunas, and do you know what I mean? We concentrate on that part of earth. But what about what's going on in the ground? Like the minerals, the metals, the gases, the manipulation and the transitioning of these materials and what they then become. It's just a whole different side of the planet, that Gaia energy that I feel we tend to kind of overlook. So this has been quite an amazing deck for me. And once again, daily pull. This is right up on my altar, and I just pull a card daily, get into that book, read what it has to say, connect it into what I'm experiencing or what's going on or maybe coming forward for me. And it's just so beautiful. And I find it very, um, very accurate, really. The one, oh, look at this one. So beautiful. And this one too. Just astounding. I think I already passed them. These ones that were kind of at the end of the book, and it's a bunch of them that build together to be like a subcategory, right? They're a little hard to understand reading their meanings in the book. You're kind of like, I don't really get that. So that has been my only thing, and I've considered actually removing them, but I don't know if I will. Look at neon. This was my card yesterday. Beautiful. An absolutely stunning deck that just connects you into a different side of earthly energy, which I think is fantastic. And I don't feel anyone else has really done this. I do have the Kim Crass, her new deck that she just came out with about alchemy. I can't remember the exact name of it. I had a hard time connecting to it, and I'm still not connecting to it. But this, however, I connected in with, and I find that they're kind of similar in a way. Very different, but kind of similar. This one connected me into that alchemy energy that I was looking for, and Kim Crass's kind of didn't. It kind of fell short for me, to tell you the truth. But I still plan on working with it and spending time with it and getting to know it. I tried a little bit, and it wasn't floating my boat, so I put it away for right now. Um, the other deck by Usi is the Supra. This has been an amazing deck. I'm really enjoying it. And you know what's funny is I actually really enjoying the sacred geometry cards. I think they're fantastic. I feel like this is just such a great oracle. The keywords are pretty good, other than like the sacred geometry don't have keywords, but the keywords are pretty good. So, I mean, you can get away with not using the book. But I really like getting into the book because just the messages and the description and the little write up that she does on each card, or they do, sorry. I should say they, not just she, is amazing. And I'm really enjoying it. It's a great deck. And I feel like it's been so insightful for me. And it actually works really well with the materia prima. I'm finding it to be quite a powerhouse together, to tell you the truth. This is quite a powerful card. All of them are just astounding. There's a maturity to these cards. There's almost like an old energy, right? There's so much knowledge in these cards. I'm really enjoying them a lot. So like this has been part of my daily practice too. So what I do is I pull my Devoirs of Creation card in the morning, and then in and around the afternoon I go into like my I go into my actual altar space, and I sit down, light a candle, kind of like, you know, chill out for a second, and then I pull a card from the materia and then from the supra, and I put them on my stand up on my altar as well too. And it's more about getting to know this deck and understanding these cards and their energy and their direction and their focus, as opposed to the Dewas where I'm very much just like looking for guidance or information about my day. These ones do tap into different stuff that's coming forward, but I find that it tends to connect more into like my personal mental space more so, and a little bit into my physical, whereas the Dewas of Creation is kind of more tapping into the ongoings and the things that are going to be happening around me or with me throughout the day. So they are kind of tapping into different sources for me, which is awesome. So I'm not finding it to be a repetitive information, right? So great deck. All in all, both amazing decks. Really, really honestly enjoying my time with it. And I keep saying that, I know, but like I don't even know what to say about them. They're so fantastic that I don't know what else to say other than they are astounding. And they have honestly, like I said, put a pause on that grasping at and desire to find a deck that answers or fulfills that lack of connection that I was feeling, because I really honestly feel that's what this is. When you're purchasing decks like crazy, it's like you're trying to fulfill this void or this lack of connection to your higher self, to your guides, to your divine, to whatever it is that you're looking to satisfy, right? And I feel like, at least for me, that's what it seemed to be. These decks have completely, the UC decks have completely satisfied that itch that couldn't be scratched. So I don't know what that is about them, but it's been really quite fantastic. I also have the Eros that I brought in, just to kind of fill up my Usi collection and be caught up, other than the new one that's coming out, Lux, which I still am going to get my hands on. The Eros, though, I haven't been spending a whole lot of time with. It's wonderful. I mean, it reads like a Marseille with a tad bit of humor, which is great. It's a solid Marseille deck. But right now I'm really working a lot in RW energy. So once I'm done with the decks that I just showed you and studying those, I'll be kind of putting that RW energy away. And then I'm going to be concentrating on Marseille. And I'm going to get into kind of a deep study of Marseille and just really get in here, spend some time with these decks and get to know them. I'm going to be working with this one and then the Tarot de Ambiguities, sorry. And then those are the two that I'm going to be working with and just spending time with. I have an excellent book that was suggested to me to kind of dive into the Marseille with, and I'm going to be just kind of tapping into that energy and doing that. But this is a very clear reader. It reads exactly, like I said, exactly like a Marseille, nice and crisp and clear, precise messages, um, which is fantastic. I mean, who doesn't love that? And the funny thing is I originally, when I first started into tarot, many, many years ago, when I was about 14, 15 years old, my first deck I read with was a Marseille. So it's kind of like bringing me back to my roots. So I will be spending time with this deck, and like I said, the other deck here by Artisan Tarot. And I'm going to be just hanging out with these ones, but it's not time yet. So for now, I've put the Eros away. I've done a couple of polls throughout the month with it, just to kind of keep the energy fresh with it and just connected in. Um, but I haven't worked with it. So I'm going to be definitely getting in nice and deep with this deck and just spending a lot of time with these two together. And like I said, studying Marseille. And at that time, then this will be probably the deck that I will put on my nightstand, and I'll just get in and spend a lot of time with it and get to know it and understanding maybe a little bit more about Marseille that I don't necessarily know. The funny thing about the deck and walk that I'm doing is it actually has taught me things about the RW that I didn't know. And that really surprised me. Not saying that I knew everything, because I mean, we never know everything. I feel like tarot is a school that we will forever be attending, and it doesn't matter how long you've been in it still teaches you things, and it will always teach me things. There's just little things about the deck that I never really noticed or I never connected. So I feel like I'm on this brand new journey with the RW and getting to know it all over again. And I kind of want to experience that with Marseille decks. So once my journey with the RW is done, and who knows, like I might actually put this off because the deck and walk is going to be a year, right? So I might honestly put this off for a year, or I might, once I get, my fulfillment and understanding and my connection and deep learning of the other Usi decks, maybe once I'm done that, I will dive into the Marseille as well. I don't know. I don't really have a time frame on that, but it will be coming in the future. I'm going to show you guys one more deck that I've been kind of working with, and that is the Posist. So the Posist Oracle in my collection, the Posist is hands down one of my most favorite oracles. There's just so much wonderful stuff about this deck. I had the first edition and I sold the first edition, and I ended up keeping the second edition. So I actually brought the second edition in to sell in my shop. I like the cardstock and the color palette a lot better. So I ended up keeping the Posis, the second edition, and I ended up moving my first edition on. Um, the cardstock of this one was like a little bit better. The other one shuffled better, to tell you the truth, but the off-white was a strange off-white, and I had a really hard time pairing it with things or putting it with other things for some reason. It just was this tone that was just slightly off, where this one is a little bit more of like a natural off-white, and it just goes with things a lot better. So this is one of my, like I said, one of my favorite oracles to work with. It is a fantastic oracle. And I put it away for quite a while, and I ended up getting a message from Andrea saying that she has now created, her and the other person, Megan King, have finally created a physical book. So they're accepting pre-orders right now, and I of course jumped right on it, and I pre-ordered the book for myself because I love poetry, and this deck, I loved going online and reading the poetry, but it was kind of a pain in the butt. So when she said she had an actual physical book coming out and that you could pre-order it, I was definitely on it, and I can't wait. It's going to be, hopefully she's going to be sending it soon. But this is another deck that kind of gives me the same feeling that I get when I'm working with pottery. And it just gives me that deep connection into like earthly energies, which is crazy because it's not necessarily an overly earthly deck, but it just gives you that deep connection feeling. I love the abstract art. If we can get it to focus in. It's just fantastic art, and I don't know, it's very intuitive. Great messages from this deck, and I can't, like I said, I can't wait to have the book and to have it and to be able to sit there and to read it. There's like such a deep card, a wound. Like, look at the ghosts coming out of it. Mm, amazing. Astounding artwork. But yeah, this is like one of my heavy users, and I absolutely love this oracle. This is hands down, I'm going to say, my favorite oracle, honestly. It is great. I really like the minimal, like it's pretty minimalistic to tell you the truth. And I like the lines, I like the art style. So when I first got the deck, I opened it up and a card fell out as I opened it. And this was the card that fell out. And it was like home. It's like it was telling me that it was home and that it was like with me. And it blew me away. And that was within like 2 seconds of owning it. And I was like, oh my God. And I fell like so deeply in love with it. It was so funny. But if you don't own the Posis, it's fantastic. If you live in Canada, I think I only have one left that's available online. So check out my website. All the links are all over my YouTube stuff, so you can find it. I only ship in Canada right now, just because these decks aren't so easily available in Canada. And I think I only have one left in my shop. They sold so crazy so fast. I believe I only have one copy left of the second edition. And my shipping and handling is a really good price, as well as the price of the deck, right? So if you're considering, wow, that really screwed my camera up. It's like, whoa, I don't even know what I'm focusing on. Um, it's chaos. But yeah, so if you're looking and you live in Canada, I've got one more copy left. Great keywords too, like just amazing keywords that you don't necessarily run into in other decks. And it's got a lot of decks, I believe, or cards. I believe it's 77 cards. So, I mean, that is a decent oracle. So that's really honestly been my only purchase in the last month or so, has been just the book, the pre-order on this book that's coming out, and one purchase on Kickstarter, but I believe that was in the end of March. I don't think I've purchased anything for April other than, like I said, the pre-order of this book for this deck. And that's just because this deck is such a wonderful deck. And I cannot wait to see the book. I keep looking at her Instagram and seeing like the different things that she has on Instagram about it. And I'm just like, yes, like I can't wait to get in and to read the poetry about it. I mean, like I said, it's available online, but it's not the same. It's hard. You got to pull out your cell phone and all that stuff. And the funny thing is, and I mean, it might just be me and my way, but when I'm working with my decks and I'm working in the world of divination and I'm connecting into this source, I do not have my cell phone with me. I actually turn it off and leave it like downstairs in the kitchen or in the living room on the table, and I do not bring that into my world. So online books kind of don't work for me because I do not want to be using my cell phone while doing this, because I tend to go onto my cell phone and I'll see a message or someone sends me something and I'll look at it and I'll get distracted. And the next thing you know, I'm not doing the things that I wanted to do. So cell phone usually just stays away from me when I'm connecting into this stuff. So to have an actual physical copy of a book of the poetry that goes with this is going to be fantastic, in my opinion. So yeah, that has been my April month and what I've been working with and what I've been bringing in. It's been a quiet month in a way. A little bit of Reiki, a little bit of teaching, a little bit of, like online readings and stuff like that. I do offer online readings if you wanted to set up an appointment. I do it over the internet, where you can visually see me, and it's quite amazing. I really enjoy doing them. It's one of my favorite ways to read, to tell you the truth. I actually enjoy reading online way better than in person. I tend to get overwhelmed by people's energies when they're like physically in front of me. Ooh, my camera's having a hard time. That's that leaving Mercury retrograde energy. So we're almost out. We have the pre or the post shadow to still deal with, but that's okay. The majority of it will be gone. Thank God. So Yeah, like I was saying, if you ever want a reading from me, you can find those on my website as well. I do now have subscriptions available. I just opened those up and just started with those. So if you like my content and you want to learn more about me and who I am and have a little view into my personal world living in a 120-year-old church, decommissioned church, and it's a great way to just connect with me and other like-minded souls and to just kind of get into the world of what I'm going through here and what I do here. Um, yeah, I do hope to share some of my pottery adventures as I get going, but those might just be available for members only. I haven't really decided yet. But, anyways, thank you for joining in. Thank you for watching. And like I said, if you want to see more content, all of my memberships are open now. Hopefully, you have a wonderful day and rest of your week. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you.